Welcome to the Oakley Podcast, Trucking, Business, and Family. This show is brought to you by Oakley Trucking, headquartered in North Little Rock, Arkansas. The purpose of this podcast is to communicate with Oakley owner-operators and their families by giving them up-to-date information concerning Oakley Trucking and the trucking industry, from business advice to safety updates to success stories. Also to give an insight to outside truck drivers that might be interested in joining the Oakley family. Hi, I'm Jeremy Kellett. I am Director of Recruiting here at Oakley Trucking. I am your host for this podcast, and we're looking forward to getting some good information out to our owner-operators and our audience alike. The purpose of this podcast I'd like to talk about for just a second is to develop another way of communicating with our owner-operators that are with Oakley and their families, and also some business advice that we can give with some success stories and things that are happening at Oakley to kind of give you an insight of what's going on here at Oakley Trucking and Bruce Oakley Incorporated as a whole too. Looking forward to having a guest on, not every episode, but several episodes. We've got a lot of information we're gathering to get out to everybody to make this podcast informative and also, but a relaxed podcast too, so we hope it helps you understand about Oakley Trucking and what we're doing, the future we have going on here, and ways that we can help improve your business and also make you successful along with us at the same time. So the first podcast here, we're going to have a special guest to help us get a little bit into the history of Oakley, specifically the way Bruce Oakley started, and also where it's come to today and the future that what we're looking like. So I have a special guest, Justin Oakley, with us today. He's going to give us we got a list of questions to drill him with, so we want to make sure he gives us a good insight of what's going on. Justin, I've worked with Justin for quite a while now, and here at Oakley, and he's been through the trucking department. It's just been a pleasure to work with you, Justin, and we're glad to have you and look forward to many years together. How you doing?
Doing good. The pleasure's mine. Enjoyed working with you as well.
How's the family?
They're good. Everyone's doing good. Abby, my wife, she and I, we live in the Little Rock area. We've got a little girl named Nora. She's 4. We've got a 1-year-old boy named Ray.
Oh, man, 2 kids, 4 and 1. How's that changed your life a little bit?
Oh, man, it's changed it dramatically, but it's a new kind of fun.
Yeah.
Most fun I'll never want to have again.
Isn't it, though? I mean, those kids just put a perspective on life that you didn't know you had before then. I know that's something that's good.
Mm-hmm.
We've, I'm looking forward to the weekend, man. We've got sunshine shining on us today. We hope it dries up a little bit. And you guys got anything planned for the weekend?
No, we're just going to stay home and have some family time and don't get to spend as much time during the week, so we like to take advantage on the weekend.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? Sometimes you work all the time and get to see them put them to bed at night and then gone before they get up the next morning. I remember those days. See, I don't have that anymore. I got 2 boys. They're in college. Man.
They're grown men.
Hey, they think they are, Justin. They think they are. It's a whole nother challenge with that, but it doesn't seem to quit, but enjoy those times when they're little. It really means a lot, to be part of them as they're growing up. Just gotta, we're going to cover some stuff here today that I think will help our listeners understand a little bit about Oakley and what's going on here, and always like to get a little history, a little background of what your role was when you started here with the company, when you actually started and what you've done up to this point now and what you're doing now. You want to give us a little history on what's going on with that?
Sure. Well, it started for me, I was 14. The first thing I did was work with my granddad, Bruce Oakley, on his farm in El Paso. That farm is where the company really got started. Then through high school, I worked in our bagging plant at BB, bagging fertilizer. That was on the night shift, and my mother didn't like that very much.
Oh, so that was after school.
It was after school. And so, working late a few nights, she had enough of that, and she actually called my manager the next day when I got home at midnight from work. And that was pretty embarrassing for me.
How old were you then?
15 or 16, somewhere in there. Anyway, the next school year, I got a job running a T-shirt press, making T-shirts at a company, so screen printer.
Nice.
So that had a little bit more favorable hours, I guess, and that was my after-school job for a little while.
That's good. You learn anything doing that?
I did. I mean, it was.
Didn't want to do it again?
It was fine. It was a good job for a teenager.
Sure.
When I graduated high school, before I went to college, I came down to North Little Rock. It was about 30 miles south of where I grew up, and started working at the terminal here at our headquarters, loading barges, unloading barges, washing barges, all that stevedoring type stuff, and I learned a lot there. That was fun.
I bet. What's the worst job they made you do here at Oakley? I'm sure you had them pick on you pretty good, didn't you?
Some, yeah, but most people were pretty cool. The worst job I think that anyone here has ever done is cleaning out the grain pits. You know, some rainwater gets in there with some grain that's spilled, and you got to get in there and clean it up, and it can get smelling pretty ripe.
Well, that is a rough smell. I've smelled that before. Thank goodness I've never had to do that. But well, that's good though. You learned a lot doing that, I guess. You learned the ins and outs of it.
The ins and the outs, yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
So what'd you do after that?
I did that on and off all through college. I went to college at a kind of commutable distance at University of Central Arkansas. Then after graduation from there, just full-time with Oakley Trucking. I was a dispatcher for about 2 years. My board was DO8. Inherited that from Nick Dulaney, and he did a great job training me. Or I think he did anyway.
So they threw you right in the fire. You got
right in, yeah.
I mean, you started dispatching right out of the gate.
Well, it's kind of funny talking about thrown into the fire. Show up on day one, and Dulaney says, "Hey, man, I got a dentist appointment. You just answer the phone and do the best you can."
Nothing like quick training.
Yeah. So, but he came back and was able to help me put out some fires, and I was able to learn quite a bit. And that first year, it takes you about a year to get good at it, and that second year, I felt like I did a good job and enjoyed it.
Did you connect with a lot of owner-operators during that time? I mean, you got to know some good truck drivers, good owner-operators.
Absolutely. So there's a handful of guys I still keep up with to some degree. They'll come visit with me when they're in the office, or I'll visit with them at the company party, or whenever we happen to see each other. So I enjoy that. It's good relationships.
Yeah. You make. I don't think people realize sometimes the relationships you make with these owner operators that are here. I mean, you learn about their families. You learn about what they do on the weekends. You learn about what they like, what they don't like. I mean, there's a connection there when you get into dispatching trucks and help them make money. I mean, you're knowing their finances, as far as making them money. And I know we'll get into that later, but I know we take pride in that at Oakley Trucking and doing that. So, okay, so you started working here. You got dispatch for 2 years, you said?
Yep, 2 years. Towards the end of that, I'd been talking with David Choate a little bit. He was running our grain division at the time, and he kind of had some plans for growth there. And he had known my dad and my granddad for a long time, and been with the company for a long time. And I think he was kind of looking forward to working with the third generation a little bit. So he kind of started twisting my arm a little bit to come to the grain division, and I was excited about it. Just learn something different. So I went and accepted that position, and he did allow me just a little bit of a break before I got started, because right in there we had gotten in the towing business with Jantran, and I got to go ride on a boat and be a deckhand for a couple of weeks on the lower Mississippi River. And
how was that?
It was an experience.
Was it really?
Yeah. A couple of weeks it's about all I wanted.
Was it?
But, man, I got a lot of respect for the guys that do that day in and day out. That's a tough job.
Yeah, because, I guess they stay out there for, 30 days? Is it 30 days?
They can,
I mean, they can, or as long as they want. That's got to be a tough job.
Yeah, it's similar to driving. I mean, you're away from the family. I think that's the hardest part of it.
Yeah.
But anyway, got off the boat and came back to work in the grain division, and that's all I did for the next couple of years, just work in the grain division. We were, buying grain from farmers, beans, corn, wheat, rice, and managing the storage, logistics, and selling back into the export markets. And again, just another great learning experience.
Right. So now I guess you're getting to the point of dealing with a little bit of everything now, as far as all aspects of the company. You're getting a little bit more into that.
That's kind of been my goal. Just learn as much as possible, and I've always enjoyed everything. So that next opportunity, I've always viewed it as another opportunity to have some fun.
Yeah, that's great. Well, me and you know a lot of all this stuff that's happened since getting Bruce Oakley started. I mean, we know the stories and things like that, and I'd kind of like to educate our listeners a little bit on how Bruce got going. Your granddad. I know I was I've was talking to Benny a little bit and have over the years, and I remember him telling me about and this is on our website too. That people can go look at, but that he had quit school and went to the Navy.
The 10th grade. Yep.
Was it 10th grade?
10th grade.
So he'd quit school, went to the Navy, and I don't know how long he was there, but
well, he had a couple of odd jobs before going into the Navy. He actually was a truck driver for a bit.
Okay.
For a milk cooperative in the state of Arkansas, and then he went to the Navy, and I couldn't tell you how long he was there, but
yeah.
I know he was honorably discharged.
Right.
And then started a little company in San Diego where he was stationed called Oaks Locker Club. And it was a locker club for sailors and also kind of a retail store, sold whatever it was that sailors wanted to buy.
Yeah, that's what Benny was telling me. So it was evidently those sailors could come there, rent that locker, and change clothes, I guess, and go out on the town and then come back to it. Is what it sounded like, I guess.
Yep. I think he sold just clothing and engagement rings, I think, was a popular item for the sailors. Yep.
Oh, I'll be dang. Who would have thought?
Mm-hmm.
So then after that, I guess he came back to farming, came back to El Paso from what I understand. And
came back to El Paso.
Had some cows, started farming.
Yep, started with cows, and the price of soybeans got high, so he got rid of the fence and sold off the cattle and started farming soybeans. And in those days, I guess most fertilizer was sold in bags. Well, when people were starting to try to farm a little bit bigger, that was cumbersome, so they wanted fertilizer in bulk, and there weren't any dealers around that were doing that. So he bought a truck so he could go and pick up ag lime and truck that back to his farm and spread it. And then wasn't long after that, started doing it for the neighbors, and that's really how the business got started.
Don't you know that the neighbors see him doing that on his field, and they're like, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
We need you. We got to figure that out. We need you to do that for us. And you could just see it just leading from one to the other, and the word spreading. And the next thing you know, here he goes.
Yeah,
that's a great story. So that was happening in El Paso, Arkansas.
Yep, that was El Paso in '68, I guess. Shortly thereafter, he moved to Beebe, Arkansas. Moved the company there to get on the Union Pacific Railroad. And that worked out well for a while. But then I guess in the mid to late 70s, the McClellan-Kerr navigation system, the Arkansas River, was opening up. And so he bought some property here in North Little Rock where we're sitting today, and started to build a river port, doing the same type of fertilizer and grain business that he was already doing, but have access to that water transportation, that third mode of transportation. It enabled the business to grow quite a bit.
Isn't that something how he could see that happening? At that point he knew. I mean, that's a big. I can imagine that being a big risk back then.
Absolutely.
Coming home and telling your wife, "Honey, I'm gonna buy some land down here on the river."
Mm-hmm. Everything's going good, but let's risk it again.
Yeah. My wife go, "What? What are you talking about?"
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just to see that happen and then evolve into what it is today. I mean, so it's BB's the bagging plant mainly, and of course you got rail still going in there, and so now all of it here in North Little Rock. Of course, I've been here a long time and just seen it expand and expand and expand, just getting bigger and bigger here. So what's the what do we all do here in North Little Rock? Can you give us a rundown on that?
So again, North Little Rock started out, it was built just to bring in fertilizer and to ship out grain, and now that's really a small part of what goes on here. This particular facility is just an all-purpose river terminal, so any kind of industrial commodity that we can get our hands on really is what we do. Aluminum, scrap metal, rock dust that they use to make tiles, just all kinds of bulk commodities come in and out of here, and we stay pretty busy, and we do a lot of that trucking, whether it's going in or coming out. We were able to capture a lot of that truck freight ourselves.
Did you ever think about this, or I guess growing up, did you know that you were going to be doing what you're doing today? Did you think, I mean, did Dad tell you, son, I gotta train you right to come up here? I mean, what was going on there when you were, in the early stages of you starting to work and stuff, what you thought you'd be doing? Or have you always known this is what you're going to do?
To some degree. I mean, I didn't know specifically what I'd be doing, but I've always just kind of assumed that I would come here. Dad and probably Granddad both, never tried to push it on me. They would, made sure that I knew the option was there, the opportunity was there if I wanted to be here, but they would have supported me in anything I did. But to be honest, I just always felt somewhat of an obligation to come here, self-imposed, of course, but I just never considered another career.
That's great. That's great. What all does Bruce Oakley Incorporated do? I mean, I'm on the trucking side, and I've learned a lot over the years, but I try to tell people we've got several different avenues as a company, as Bruce Oakley Incorporated, with the fertilizer and the grain and the barge and the port terminals and Jantrans. I mean, and a lot of these people that are listening don't know what I'm talking about when I say that, so we might want to slow down and just explain a little bit, because catch everybody up with ports in different parts of the country. A lot of them think that maybe we're just right here in North Little Rock. They don't think they realize how we're expanding. So what, you can give us a rundown maybe on where we're at and logistics-wise?
So, yeah, I mean, I tell people that Bruce Oakley Incorporated is a logistics company. Of course, trucking is the most visible. A lot of people may recognize the blue and yellow logo on the side of the trailer. But marine transportation is, an almost equal important of the business. We've got 2 units, barges and towboats, that a lot of the same commodities that we are trucking, we may have already pushed that on the water before it got to a terminal where we picked it up, or vice versa. We may have trucked something into a terminal that we're putting on a barge, and our boats are pushing down the river. And then, of course, those 2 modes of transportation are connected by the river terminals. So we've got several places on the Arkansas River, now on the Mississippi River, Illinois River. We do quite a bit of business on the Ohio River also.
Where are we at up there, in Cincinnati?
Cincinnati, yeah.
So we got a port in Cincinnati.
Fertilizer terminal, yeah.
Fertilizer terminal. We got a St. Louis is a recently acquired, I get less than a year for sure, in St. Louis. So that's a port where
that's a big deal.
That's a big deal.
And then Catoosa, Oklahoma is probably not probably, it is our biggest port, and that's it's a separate operation, but it's also helped us grow the trucking side of the business.
It sure has. Yeah, I can remember, what's it been, 5 years now maybe?
It's been 6.
6? Wow. We bought that place over there, and it's just an amazing port over there with trucks coming in and out of it all the time. I mean, it is a lot of freight moves in and out of there. I talk to those guys over there, and it's amazing how they load and unload so many barges in a day's time. They've got a system over there.
Those guys are pros.
They are pros.
Yeah.
They've been doing it a long time. I know.
It seems like several different divisions or several different companies, but I view it all as one family. We all are connected, and we're all a little bit stronger because we're together.
Yeah, that helps a lot, having that. And we're able to communicate with those guys easy. You think, I know a lot of people think out of state, out of sight, out of mind, but we're able to communicate well with them all the time, every day. So it works out pretty good. Speaking of your grandpa there a little bit earlier, I was I was trying to I was talking to Benny Weatherford, and for y'all who don't know, Benny Weatherford's the vice president over trucking. He's been here 40 plus years, and he started out, kind of like you, young, working for Bruce, and he had a lot of stories about Bruce himself and his early days of working for Bruce. I can't tell a lot of them here on this podcast, but he had one particular that he was telling me the other day that they used to. It was when they came to North Little Rock, and they had a barge out here, and the way they moved that barge up and down was with a John Deere tractor and a chain.
Wow.
Yeah. So Benny was talking about how they moved that thing, the barge up and back and forth with a John Deere tractor and a chain. Well, or a rope or something, a cable. Well, Bruce came down here and got on the barge and was checking things out. Well, the rope / chain broke off the John Deere, and Benny said all he could see was that barge floating off of the bank off down the river, and old Bruce lighting up that cigarette, just shaking his head as he was floating down the river. And he had to call the Little Rock Port Authority to get a boat, to come back, pick him up, and bring him back to the dock. Mm-hmm. I thought that was hilarious. I could just see that happening.
That is.
I met Bruce quite a few times when I started in 1994, and I always remember him. He had that houseboat, mm-hmm. and it was a big houseboat, and he would bring it up here and dock it right down here on the river, and I went on it maybe once or twice at the most, he would have us come down there after work or something. And it was just amazing how I couldn't imagine, because he was telling me how he would take that thing down the river, down the Mississippi, out in the Gulf, down to Florida, mm-hmm. on that houseboat, because he liked to go down there from like October to, I don't know, December or something, a few months. He would go down there, and I thought, man, I can't imagine riding a houseboat.
Yeah, in his later years, he didn't really like being in the cold weather, but
yeah,
he'd be on the boat, but he wouldn't let anyone else drive it. He had to do everything himself.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
I can imagine. That's good stuff, man. Good stories. What do you remember anything else about your grandpa? What hits you?
What always stood out to me, I mean, first of all, he's just a super smart guy, always real intelligent, but he was quiet. He didn't say a lot, but I later learned that he didn't have to say a lot. He could let everyone else talk, and then as soon as they quieted down, he could say maybe one, maybe two sentences, and that would have more of an impact than the combination of everything that was said before. So
that's pretty good when you know an individual like that. You respect them on what they say, because they're man a few words, but when they do say something, it's pretty meaningful and important, mm-hmm. at that. Pretty important. What I was kind of skipping around here a little bit on you,
sure.
On some of these questions, but I like to try to get as much information as we can. I think this is good information for our listeners, especially for our owner operators and their families to be able to understand a little bit more of the personable side of us and what we're about, and I think maybe that'll help them with this. So, how about the future of Bruce Oakley Incorporated? I mean, I've sure got big plans for trucking. We want to keep it up and going and keep things moving ahead and gaining owner operators and gaining customers, and we're doing a pretty good job of that and steady. But as far as the overall, we may get into trucking here in just a little bit, but as far as the overall future of Bruce Oakley Incorporated, I think a lot of people would like to know that, because Justin, I mean, there's a lot of, especially this past year, there's a lot of companies out there that gone under. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was just listening to a webinar from ATBS a while ago, and it was talking about how a lot of trucking companies have went under because of insurance cost, mm-hmm. and those nuclear verdicts and stuff, and that that's got to be a concern with companies going under. I like for our listeners to be confident and understand that we're not going anywhere. We've been here a long time. We're not going anywhere, and we got good plans for the future, right?
I think we do. And just to touch on some of the companies that go under. Maybe it's for insurance or this reason or that reason. But I think in a lot of cases you could take that back to they weren't as financially secure as maybe they could have been or should have been, some of these other companies. And that's one thing I gotta brag on my dad about. He's always, ultra conservative, not one to overextend the business. He wants to make sure that everyone's going to be taken care of, and he's always done a great job of that, and I got a ton of respect for him for that. So I have a hard time seeing, one thing like an insurance or, any kind of outside effect taking us into a bad place.
Right. I do too. I mean, I just don't see that happening. What is going? What's coming up down the road? This year, 2020, the next 5 years. Where do we plan to be? Something like that. Give us some insight on what's going on with that.
In 2020, the plan for this year is to just kind of focus on what we've done over the past several years, because we've had a lot of growth and it's been great. But I think, Dad and I have kind of spoken about this. It's time to take a breather, kind of invest in what we've already got, make what we've got as good as it can be. And then, maybe here in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, we kind of reset and say, all right, here we go. It's time for another round of growth.
Yeah, I like that, to put more in what you've already got, because we sure got a lot of avenues to help people to generate revenue. We got a lot of options here. I mean, I was looking at the list we were talking about a while ago, the different things we do with the trucking. We got the ports, the grain department, fertilizer sell everywhere, fuel business. We got in the fuel business, 10 years ago? No, probably not even that long.
Not that long ago, but yeah, and that's just kind of extension of 2 of the terminals that we're already in business at. So North Little Rock and at Caruthersville, Missouri, we were already there, and so we kind of added on to what we were doing at those terminals, and so it was kind of a natural fit. We were able to, we barge diesel fuel up and distribute it, wholesale distribution. But then, here at Little Rock, it's kind of neat. We can also sell fuel directly to our owner operators, and then we sell fuel directly back to our towing company on the river. So,
yeah, because the company we bought a few years ago, Jantrans, that's a tugboat company. A lot of people don't know. So, there's how many tugboats in that company? Approximately.
Approximately 30, between line boats and the fleet boats.
Yeah. So, those, there's 30 tugboats, and they're up and down these rivers pushing all kinds of barges, I guess, everybody's barges, including ours, all the time. So it's, a lot of people, I want the listeners and our owner-operators especially to see the diversity that we have here, with not just a trucking company or not just selling fertilizer, but we have, Bruce and your dad have put together just an awesome company to where we're diversified and we don't have all our eggs in one basket. If something goes down, we've got different things going, and just great thriving company that I sure am proud to work for, and I know a lot of our owner operators are too.
Yeah, and just to kind of expand upon your comment about diversity, things do get slow, and they do. It's just that's going to happen. But one thing that's been kind of neat for us on the trucking side of the business is we're able to leverage some of these other businesses that we're in, and if we need to, we create our own truck freight at times.
Right.
That's not the goal, but we can lean on that when we have to. We can haul some grain or some fertilizer or salt and other commodities that we distribute, and I think that's helped us weather some storms over the past few years.
I know it has. That's something we preach in the trucking side of it. Is that our goal is to keep our owner operators busy, no matter what the freight rates are or slow time. They're all going to come, the slow times for sure, and the good times too. But our goal is to keep the owner operators steady and busy, making money every week, so that it doesn't affect them near as bad as it may at another company. And we do, like you say, we can create some freight by doing that, trucking freight. And that's something that we take pride in our owner-operators. We want to keep them busy because we know the good times are always coming every year around the corner, and we expect them to be ready for it. And I tell you, we've got some good owner operators been with us a long time, and we've developed a lot of good relationships with them, and looking forward to adding on. We got 860 owner operators right now. Would you ever thought that?
I don't know. When I started, it was in the 400s or something like that, and I just kind of assumed, growth is just totally normal. But then some of the other guys, yourself included, Jeremy, I guess, how many trucks were here when you started?
There was right at 100.
Okay. I remember Dad talking about, he was dispatching 15, and now it's just.
I started in 94, and it was 100, right at 100 trucks. And, boy, you talking about getting thrown in the fire. I got thrown in the fire with Mac and Benny and Manley. It was something else, but it was it was different type of trucking back then, and we just started doing things right. I mean, these guys just are so good at what they do. I think we tell people what we're going to do, and we do it. And we just started adding owner operators because the freight business was good. We hit a little niche there, of this bulk business, and we've steadily grown. But you think about that, Justin, we haven't just exploded, So, 100 trucks, and now we're at 860. I mean, that's taken 25 years. That's because, and the reason for that is because we're particular on who we lease on. We stick with our business model. We don't just lease on a bunch of fleet owners and that kind of stuff. We make sure the owner drives a truck. And trust me, don't get me wrong. I've wanted to stray on some of this stuff, and my boss keeps me, hey, do what you know, do what you know best. And it has sure helped us in the long run make the best company, I think, out there with owner-operators. We just have the best guys out in the business, and you see it every day. I see it in the trucks they drive. We hear it from our customers. We got, a great reputation, and we want to, we try really hard to keep that. So, man, I'm excited about the future and growing. I'm ready to keep this thing going. No telling what's happening in the future. For 5 years from now, maybe we'll be doing our 500th episode, and we'll get back on here and go, hey, Justin, you remember that first episode we did?
You got to start somewhere.
Yeah. Well, man, anything you want to add to conversation? You think we covered everything that we want to share with these guys?
Well, one thing we didn't really touch on dispatch that much, I think. I
mean, that's a good idea.
I mean, I think that's one thing that I don't know if it's totally unique to our company, but I think that we've got a great group of guys that they understand what you were talking about earlier about keeping the drivers busy and taking care of drivers. And I've personally got to work with the majority of those guys, and they just do an awesome job.
It takes a special guy to do that dispatching. It really does. We put pressure on them, I know, from the recruiting department to just we made the change of getting guys home every weekend years ago, because before that it was 2 weeks or we didn't lease you on. We didn't hire you. If you couldn't stay out 2 weeks, you couldn't work here. And then we saw the opportunity there of getting guys home on the weekends. Everybody started looking for that. And so we put a little pressure on dispatch to start doing that. And, man, I'm going to tell you what, now they took the bull by the horns, and they have amazed me how they get guys home every weekend just about, living in the right areas, of course. But they do a fantastic job down there and are able to retain these owner-operators. We got one of the lowest turnover rates in the industry, and that's because our dispatch, they know, they take care of them. They listen to them. It's that one-on-one. That one-on-one deal. And you get to know that owner-operator. You want to take care of him. I mean, you want to help him.
I remember when I was dispatching, I had several guys that had to be home every weekend, and it was more work. But also, like you said, it was what we needed to do as a company because we were missing out on some great guys by not doing that. I remember David Buckles. He still works here down in Mississippi. He was just the nicest guy, still is, do anything I asked him to do. But if I said, hey, man, can I get you home late, maybe Saturday afternoon, he'd say, now, Justin, listen to me. That's not going to work. I got to be home Friday night. I'm going to church Sunday morning, and I'll talk to you on Monday.
Yeah, that's what dispatch has done. Those guys just do a fantastic job of getting that thing done. We try real hard to on the front end too with recruiting to make sure they don't get somebody that has crazy expectations. You know, we living somewhere crazy, wanting home on the weekends. We try to get the right guys for them, but you know, dispatch puts in a lot of hours down here trying to plan for guys. They really have to. I'm super proud of them. I honestly don't think I could do it these days. It'd be tough, man.
I believe in you. I think you do it.
I don't know, Justin. It's been a long time. Oh, man. Well, hey, I appreciate you, man. Appreciate all the good info. I really like it. I think we've covered some good stuff and hopefully gave our listeners insight to Oakley Trucking, especially Justin Oakley and what's going on in your world. Hope you help me and come back on this podcast pretty regular and
anytime.
Give us some updates on what's going on with that. Thanks everybody for tuning in to the Oakley Podcast. Hope you enjoyed today's show. If you got any ideas or topics you want us to cover, please reach out to us. Drop us a comment. Subscribe to our YouTube page. Go to our website. We're we're new at this, so we've got things coming out. This is probably going to be every 1 week, maybe 2 week show. We'll get a little better as it goes, but man, get in touch with us and on things you want to discuss. And also, if you're interested in becoming an owner operator with Oakley Trucking, go to our website. Call us up here in the recruiting department. We'd like to give you some information of what's going on here at Oakley and what we're looking for and what we can do to help you. All right, man. Well, I appreciate it, Justin.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Oakley Podcast, Trucking, Business, and Family. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate or review the show in the podcast platform of your choice and share it with a friend. We love hearing from our audience, so if you've got a question, comment, or just want to say hello, head over to our website, theoakleypodcast.com, and click the Leave a Comment button. We'll get you a response soon and may even share some of the best ones here on the show. We'll be back with a fresh episode very soon. Thanks for listening.